What's up, guys, and welcome back. Today I am going to take you through some hip stability stuff, my go-to hip stability sequence, and something that I have really used to my advantage post hip replacement. When it comes to doing stuff in the gym, usually my warm-ups start with mobility and then they go through stability, and then I use that stability to translate over into my strength movements. Today, we're going to go through a hand-resisted dead bug sequence, which is my go-to sequence whenever there is lower back pain involved or there is any sort of imbalance or misalignment in the pelvis. Now, if you don't care about the whys behind what we're doing, then I am going to give you the timer so that you can just fast forward to the good stuff. But for everybody else, I'm going to give you a really brief explanation as to why we're doing what we're doing, because I find that if you have the buy-in, then you really are committed to making the most out of the movement and really get into that mind-muscle connection that makes all the difference. So very, very, very simply, mobility, which I often harp on about, is the range of motion around a joint that you have access to. Stability is your ability to control that range of motion. And what I find with a lot of people is that something that is seen to be a mobility issue is often not that at all. It's often a motor control issue. It's your body's way of telling you that it doesn't feel safe in that excess range of motion, and so it will stop you at the point where it feels safe. So by improving the stability or your motor control, you can actually improve your range of motion and therefore your movement efficiency. So yeah, that's it in a nutshell. Now we're going to go through the sequence. I feel like when we talk about hip flexors, we tend to assume there's just one muscle, when in fact there are multiple muscles that pull the hip into flexion. Most awkward movement known to man. The psoas being the one that gets the most attention, and rightly so, because it attaches at the back and the front of the hip, so it really has the potential to twist the pelvis if it's too tight or too weak. So we, for the sake of structural balance, want to both lengthen and strengthen, and this sequence focuses on the strength portion of that. So the first part of this is your isometric contraction. So you're going to place both hands on the front of this knee and push as hard as you can against it while simultaneously pulling that knee towards you. So this is going to create that compressive stability around the joint, and isometrics can be really useful when it comes to pain management because they kind of have that analgesic effect. The second thing that this is actually going to do with that push-pull is it's also going to start creating that intra-abdominal pressure or that bracing across the midsection. Now, this is as hard or as easy as you make it, so really push into there and really pull against it, and you should feel that whole midsection connect and brace. The second portion of this movement is more dynamic in nature. So you're still going to keep the tension on this side, but now we're going to move the other leg away from the body. Okay, so we're essentially now working through the anterior oblique sling, or very simply, we're connecting the internal and external obliques, the abdominals on one side, through to the adductors on the other side. Now, these diagonals across the body, if they are balanced and they're both working efficiently, they're going to help to stabilize the entire pelvic girdle and therefore support the lower back. And the third and last part of the sequence is even more dynamic in that we are adding in not just one limb, but then the opposite upper body limb. Now, what dead bugs are really useful for, generally speaking, when you do the full variation, is learning how to keep a really stable and braced midsection while limbs are moving. And if you can do that, it will definitely go a long way to keeping you uninjured in the gym, because it really translates through to all of your lifting. The other thing that this does is it sort of starts introducing you to that connection between the hip through the midsection and into the opposite shoulder, which, if you're an athlete, is a pathway that you really want to develop, because most athletic skills start from creating the power at the hip, translating it through the midsection, and then having it manifest through the upper limb. I hope you found that useful. Remember, I want you to like, I want you to save, I want you to share it with your mates, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you know what's coming up next.